Thanks for joining us tonight. The Michigan man serving life without parole for a murder in Alabama, now sentenced today in a Brown County courtroom for a different murder.
We first told you about Caleb Anderson's tri-state crime spree back in August of 2022. Today, he is sentenced for the death of 65-year-old Patrick Ernst of Green Bay. Brittany Schmidt has the latest on Anderson's sentencing.
Convicted murderer 25-year-old Caleb Anderson is ushered into a Brown County courtroom Monday for the murder of 65-year-old Patrick Ernst.
State of Wisconsin versus Caleb Anderson.
Anderson's crime spree started in Upper Michigan when he attempted to assault a teenage female runner. He then came to Green Bay and met Ernst via a dating app. Ernst was found brutally murdered in his West Side apartment. After that, Anderson took Ernst's vehicle, drove to Alabama, and killed 50-year-old Dwight Dixon. Anderson is already facing life in prison without the possibility of parole for Dixon's murder. The state decided to extradite Anderson back to Wisconsin for two reasons.
We have a different victim. We have a victim's family who deserves to know that this individual and this defendant is held accountable for what they did in the loss of their loved ones. But B, as we've learned with other cases, you never know what can happen to a sentence. You never know if there's a law change in Alabama. You never know if for some reason there would be a problem with that conviction or that sentence. So it was important in this case to make sure that Mr. Anderson was held accountable.
The victim's family did not wish to speak, but instead, Brown County Judge Thomas Walsh took a moment to read the victim's statement. Lemkuhl says Ernst's family is grief-stricken.
We don't wish for any family to have to live through the range of emotions we experience that can test your faith, question mankind, or even the society we've become that would foster a person that would not value another man's life.
Judge Walsh recognizing the family's trauma and noting that Anderson doesn't have a lengthy criminal history.
The notion that no one could see this coming might be an apt way to describe it. And that too is scary. And to think that it occurred by someone using a dating app, which so many people in our community use. That's a beneficial feature of technology that we have these days, that people can connect with others socially, romantically, their phones and apps, and to have this be the result really, I think, strikes fear into the community.
Judge Walsh sentenced Anderson to life without the possibility of parole. It's the same sentence he received in Alabama. At this time, it is unclear where he will serve his time in prison. Anderson still faces assault charges in Michigan, but it's up to the state to extradite him there if they choose to pursue them. In Brown County, Brittany Schmidt, Action 2 News.